I've been associated with YouTube for a long time now. YouTube was a different platform back when it was originally created. A lot more could be arguably done than what was later allowed, legally. Back then I had a playlist of videos that I researched from sources on the internet, and I discussed through those videos a wide range of topics. One particular video I uploaded became rather popular. A segment of the video had me discussing the theory that in Northern California, the United States Army had a series of underground tunnels that connected to and from Area 51 in Nevada. As before I uploaded the video, I made sure that all of the information I researched for the video was up to date. Within a few days of the video's uploading, it became popular. Soon I received a private message from another YouTube user. They mentioned that the video was great and accurate, but the segment about the tunnels in Northern California was somewhat vague. They mentioned that there were details that weren't depicted from my point of view that could have used more classification. I decided to later message them back and mentioned as to what could be wrong with it. They further explained the tunnels were more expansive and more wide-reaching than what my video explained. As for the next few days I communicated through messages with this particular user, and they explained to me shocking and disturbing details. The user explained that a relative of theirs worked for the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and that one of the reasons why the tunnels were created was because of fears of a Japanese invasion of California from the Second World War. The user also speculated that it might have been possible that some of the tunnels were originally gold mines that were extracted and later abandoned, but the tunnels were still usable and stable enough to transport vehicles and personnel under the ground without civilian populations noticing at all. I questioned the user if the people of California would have noticed tunnels being developed, and that something like that couldn't be hidden so well, if at all, by the United States government. The user said that his relative was stationed in Northern California with the Corps, which at the time before, during, and shortly after the Second World War was sparsely populated. The user's relative mentioned that in the years immediately after the war, the army was constructing, connecting, and expanding the tunnels in broad daylight. But since there were no settlements anywhere near the tunnel entrances or work areas, no one saw or heard anything. Most of the population lived in Southern California, with only a small towns of literally just a few hundred scattered through Northern California. The user theorized that the tunnels were started in some varying forms from the late 1800s to early 1900s, and continued from his relative's knowledge until the 1950s. I compared what this user was telling me through messages to what information I had, and these new claims were plausible, as I couldn't confirm nor deny these pieces of information. I questioned why the American government would stop in the 1950s, as the user explained that after the Second World War ended, people started moving to California, and with Southern California already congested at the time, they slowly moved north. Not north enough to be near where the tunnels were, but north enough to know or even see what sort of military endeavors were occurring in Northern California. Tunnel expansion later continued underground from the 1950s until when the user's relative retired from the Corps in the 1970s. When asked, the user's relative held the impression that there were tunnels all under the Pacific Northwest, as the relative of the user had been in one of the particular tunnels, and that they were large enough to transport a Boeing B-29 Super Fortress, which was one of the largest American bombers of the Second World War with some room to spare. I replied to these claims with a question as to why such tunnels would be theoretically classified today. The user commented that the relative of theirs considered the tunnels to still have purpose and practicality, as massive amounts of military personnel and technology could be easily transported depending anywhere in the Pacific Northwest. I made references to the people who have made claims to have discovered air ventilation shafts of the tunnels in Northern California, and how certain people have gone missing in the extreme regions of the state. The user commented that the air vents were from older sections of the tunnel that actually needed ventilation for air when transporting personnel or equipment. The user then assumed that modern areas of the tunnels would have some sort of air-conditioned ventilation. The user commented that they wouldn't exactly be surprised if people were killed to keep the tunnels secret. Although most people have heard of the rumors to varying extents, few people actually have the desire to look for the tunnels. I asked the user as to what they believe the American government could be planning the tunnels for ultimately, but I never got a reply. The back and forth conversation that I had with the particular user through private messages made me consider deleting the video and re-uploading it with the information that I had obtained from them, but I had no way to verify if these claims were in fact true or they were possibly fake. I decided to save the messages on YouTube and not do anything about it, as in the years since, YouTube went through many different changes, and I tragically lost the original messages that I had with the particular user. All that I had left were vague memories of messages from a person who claimed that a family member of theirs were associated with the construction of mysterious tunnels in Northern California. As to the legitimacy of their claims, I doubt I'll ever really know if they were true or not.